Okay, we're in Lamed Dalet on the base, and the article is 34b2. On the first column, Rabbi Shmuel Manavshach. The last thing we said yesterday, not yesterday, I mean on Friday, that we need all four all four species in order to fulfill the mitzvah. They're ma'atun ze'ezeh. They hold back one another from fulfilling the mitzvah. We said in context of mitzvah tefillin, right? If a person doesn't have the shel rosh and the shel yad, you only have the shel rosh, right? You only have the tefillin for your head, or you only have the tefillin for the hand. You fulfill them. Each one is its own mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to put on the hand, mitzvah to put on the head. But when it comes to the daled minim, the four species of aravos, the alulav, and the esrog hadassim, we said you have to have all four in order to fulfill the mitzvah min Torah. If you don't have all four, you don't get the mitzvah min Torah. And we suggested a reason that, just a pidrash. We said that the four different species represents four different types of Jews. Some explain that, that there are Jews that have Torah and Masim Tovim, Jews that have only Torah, the Jews that have only good deeds, and the Jews that don't have any, that are not doing anything. They're not learning Torah, they're not doing good deeds. And the Torah wants us to take all those Jews to come together. And we all have to learn, from, so to speak, I would say the esrog, which represents the thing that has taste and has smell, which represents taste and smell, represents Torah and good deeds. And everyone has to learn from the esrog to be that type of person. But we can't forget about any type of Jew. All types of Jews, whichever level they're on, we have to bring them together, connect them to the proper role models, and they should all grow. So therefore, if we just have the Jews that have the etrog, it's not good enough. In fact, you have the Torah and the Masim Tovim, where you just have other types of Jews. But we don't have all the Jews together. We're not working on trying to encourage all the Jews to grow. Then we're missing. Just like I say for Torah, if it's missing a letter, every letter is vital to every Jew, as I think the song goes, no Jew left behind, so to speak. So we have to go ahead and look up that song, Adam, if you want to. Never heard that. No Jew Left Behind, I think by Mordechai Ben David, I think. So check it out. It was an old classic. Okay, I gave you homework to do. Okay, so now we're on Lamed Dalet Beis. So now the Mishnah stated here different opinions regarding the Hadassim. Regarding if the hadassim are cut on top, right? If we have here's the hadas, right? So this hadas, I don't know if this top was cut. If you bend it and break it, that's called breaking the top. So here there's a question: if the top part was cut off, was broken, even if the majority of the leaves still remain intact, what's the halacha? Is the hadas still kosher or the hadas is not kosher? So the earlier Mishnah, we had a Mishnah earlier that stated that if the hadas is cut on top, if you want to send to the group that we're on, that the hadas is cut on top, the hadas is invalid. It's not kosher. But this Mishnah stated, the first opinion said we had Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael says that even 2 out of 3 hadassim could be cut on top, it's still kosher. Rabbi Shmuel required that one hadas remains intact. Rabbi Tarfon says even if all 3 are cut. Rabbi Tarfon says even if all 3 are cut, it's also good. Rabbi Tarfon seems to say the only thing we have to make sure we have 3 hadassim, and even if they're cut on top, they're still good. And what would be the logic? And we saw, I think the Mishnah Berurah explained what's the logic of if it's cut on top. Why should it be good? We know by the arava, if the arava is cut on top, it's not good, right? The willow, if it's cut on top, it's not good. Why should the hadas possibly be different? So the hadassim, as you know, the leaves, this one is not a good example, but the leaves cover the branch. As we said, if you look lower down See right over here? You don't really see the branch much. You see how well the leaves come up, and that's one of the character traits of Hadassah, that it covers the stem. So therefore, so even if it's cut on top, but the fact that there will be leaves there, so those leaves would most likely cover the cut, and therefore the fact that it's going to cover it, therefore it won't lack in the beauty of the Hadass. As we said, good morning, Ralph. Good to see you.
Morning, Rabbi.
We are on 34b2, 34b2, and so therefore that could be explanation why he holds that even if the Hadass is cut on top, it's still kosher, because like we said, Ralph, that it covers, because the leaves of the Hadass cover the stem, so it covers some of the cut. Now we had in the Mishnah earlier that if the Hadass if the myrtle is cut, it is not kosher. And the only thing we said that would be kosher, if it, Mara said earlier, if a berry would grow, and the berry would cover, if a berry would grow to cover if something would grow there to cover the cut, that we said would be sufficient. The Gemara did not say just having the leaves there is sufficient. So here, and then the last opinion of our mission of Yekiva, Rabbi Akiva says you only need one Hadass, one Lulav, one Esrog, one Hadass, one Arava. So we have multiple opinions on what's the law regarding Hadassim. Just to repeat, the earlier Mishnah says if Hadass is cut, it is invalid, which would sound like any Hadass, one Hadass out of the three would be cut on top, it's invalid. This Mishnah, we have an opinion that says, Rabbi Yishmael says, even if two are cut, if one is not cut, that's good enough. One of the And then we have the second opinion. We said the third opinion is that even if all three are cut, it's kosher. And the fourth opinion is that you only need one Hadass, but that one Hadass needs to be not cut. Okay? And then we also stated last time in the Shulchan Aruch that the Shulchan Aruch brings both opinions. I think the first opinion he says that it's kosher if the Hadass is cut on top. Second opinion he brings, some say it's not kosher. And the Ashkenaz rabbi said you should be machmir not to have hadassim that are cut on top. And of course, I think everybody should agree you should try not to have hadassim that at the top of the branch, the top of the stem is cut on top. Okay. Now, it comes down with Gemara, and we start now with Rabbi Yishmael. You have a Gemara with you, Ralph? You don't have a Gemara with you?
No, I don't.
You're doing the old-fashioned way. Listen, in the old-fashioned way, the Talmud, they only listened and they spoke Torah in the oral Torah.
Doing it orally.
Orally, they did not write it down until later on. There was a time period of people forgetting it, and they had to write it down. This is called Torah Shabbat Peh. If you ever want, Ralph, you could borrow a Gemara and then take it with you, and then bring it back afterwards. We give you that permission, of course. So the Gemara says, "V'monivshach." The Gemara wants to understand. The Gemara is having difficulty to understand the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, that he has this in-between opinion, that he says two could be cut and one can't be cut. Rabbi Yishmael, Manavshah, what you're saying is difficult to understand, because each shleimin, if you require that you have to have three, if you require that hadassim have to be complete, that it cannot be cut on top, because you hold there's an issue of beauty. You hold it's a lack of beauty, because the Torah says pre-Eitz Hadah, that has to be beautiful. The etrog has to be beautiful, and there's a certain level of beauty that's required. And we learn out, and you also have the opinion that we learn out all the other species from etrog, and all the species have to be beautiful. And therefore you say that's why if two of them are cut, it's no good. So if you require shleimin boy, if it has to be whole, so the boy nami kulo, all of them should be whole. Why? If it's a question of beauty, how do you say two could be cut but one can't be cut? If you're telling me you're being particular that one cannot be cut, that means it needs to be beautiful, right? If it needs to be beautiful, so then all three should go ahead and be what and be in that level. Kulu, liboy nami kulu, all of them should be not not cut. Below by shleimim, and if you hold, you don't need hadar. You hold that you don't need that the hadas doesn't need to be this level of beauty, and you hold that it could be cut, then all three should be cut. If you don't need it to be complete, even one you should not require to be complete. So where do we get this in between that one needs to be whole and two can't be whole? And two do not need to be whole, right? That's the Gemara. Adam, is it clear? Why are you making a distinction between one and the other? If you feel it's an issue, it should be an issue for all three. If you feel it's not an issue for some, it should be an issue of anything. It doesn't seem to be consistent. What's the logic? Where do you get the split between this one and this one and the other two? So the Gemara says, Omar Bira, Omar Avami, Bira, and they say in the Ramami, you know what? He actually changed his mind. He said, Hozabo Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael changed his mind from what he required. That he said in the beginning that you need three hadassim, and then what does he explain? He said like this: in the beginning, he said you have to have three hadassim, and all the three hadassim need to be a shalem. All three need to be complete. And afterwards, he changed his mind, and he held that you don't need three hadassim. You only need one hadas. But he says that he says, meaning he changed his mind. Then he said you only need one hadas to be complete, but the other two could be cut. And if you don't want to take the other two at all, you don't need to take the other two. And the hadashim that are cut, they are like they're not here at all. So what's the change of mind? The change of mind is that he doesn't require, technically, he only requires one hadas. That one hadas has to be complete. That's all he requires. So that's his change of mind. Rashi says it's kosher with one hadas, but that one hadas would have to be beautiful, which would seem from this that Rabbi Yishmael changed his mind and is following the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva also said, that you only need one hadas, and that one hadas has to be not cut. So that at the end, Rabbi Yishmael changed his mind. That's what it would come out, the way it comes out according to this understanding, the way Rashi explains. Let's see if there's any other different explanation. So, okay, I mean, some want to explain the Ran and the Ritva. They hold that even after Rabbi Yishmael changed his mind, he still holds that three hadassim are preferable. It's preferable to take three hadassim, but really there's only one that's really essential that has to be taken. And maybe that could be the difference between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva does not talk about three hadassim at all. Rabbi Akiva says one hadas. Maybe the difference of the opinion to Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yishmael, according to this, would hold that ideally you're supposed to go ahead and have three hadassim, but really the main thing is having one hadas that's not cut. As long as you have one hadas that's not cut, even if the other two are cut, it's fine. So now the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Halachik Rabbi Tarfon. The halacha is like Rabbi Tarfon, that hadassim that are cut on top is kosher, which is like we said, that's the first opinion we said in the Shulchan Aruch. The Gemara says, "V'azda Shmuel etamei." Shmuel goes according to his reasons. The Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, "Lahanohu the mizavne asa." The people that were selling the hadassim, right? Like today, you have to go to the places, go to the stores, or in the market that they're selling the hadassim in the street. They lulav, they're srog. I want to buy hadassim. Now, how much are they charging for the hadassim? So Shmuel said to the people that were selling hadassim, "Ashvu v'zabinu." Sell your hadassim at I want it to be sold at a nice discounted price. Meaning don't charge more money for the hadassim if they're whole on top and not cut on top. Meaning he was very concerned that the Jewish community, it shouldn't be too expensive for the Jewish community, and he was afraid that the people are gonna, the merchants are gonna sell the hadassim that are not cut on top for more money, and it'll be difficult for the people. And he tells them like this: listen, if you're gonna charge more money for the hadassim that are whole on top, that are not cut on top, more than the hadassim that are cut on top, I'm gonna publicize the fact that you don't need it to be whole on top. I'm gonna publicize that fact because we're going now with Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon says even if all three are cut on top, it's kosher. Even though Rabbi Tarfon said all three could be cut on top, but the people, it's still nicer to have them not cut on top, right? So even if you hold, let's say you hold that you don't need it to be whole on top, right? Let's say it's still considered beautiful, it's still considered, it's covered up, the top of the hadas is covered from the leaves, you don't have to generally worry about the top of the hadas. But at the end of the day, it's still nicer. So the community in general was trying to take the hadassim that were not cut on top, or the community was trying to fulfill the other opinions that say it shouldn't be cut. So whatever reason why the community was taking the ones that were nicest, not cut on top, but there was a concern that if you're going to charge more money for it, I don't want the community to have to spend that extra money for it. So he told the merchants, the ones that sold the myrtle, that sold the hadassim, Ashvu v'zavinu, sell the with the same price, the hadassim that are cut on top and the hadassim that are not cut on top. The elo, if you're not going to do that, if you're going to charge more for the hadassim that are cut on top, the reshinu l'chu, I'm going to publicize in public that the Rabbi Tarfon. I'm going to publicize in public that the law follows Rabbi Tarfon, that they could all be cut on top. Now, originally, Shmuel did not want to publicize, like we said, this is what Tosfos says. He didn't want to publicize that it could be cut on top because he was happy that the people are beautifying, like we said, every mitzvah, there's a concept that even if the mitzvah is kosher in a certain fashion, but if you could do the mitzvah in a nicer fashion, right? You could have a mezuzah that's kosher, then you can have a nicer mezuzah. You could have tefillin, you can have a nicer tefillin, nicer writing for the mezuzah. So it's always, if you could do the mitzvah in a nicer way, so you wanted to encourage that. So therefore, he didn't want to tell the people, like, what do they say, burst their bubble or whatever the expression is. He didn't want to tell them that, you know what, you don't need to be whole on top. He didn't want to tell them that the law follows that it doesn't need to be whole on top, because he didn't want to publicize that law, because he was happy to see that people were going out of their way asking for a whole hadas, which is nicer. But if it's going to come at the expense of the people going to spend extra money for it, that he did not want that the people should spend that extra money. And the Gemara says, "My taima, what is the reason that Shmuel said that he would tell the sellers, the merchants, that the law follows Rabbi Tarfon? That the law follows Rabbi Tarfon, he would tell them, he told them, guys, if you're going to charge more, I'm going to publicize that all of them could be cut. Ilema mishum Miguel, is it because, Rabbi Tarfon's opinion is a lenient opinion. That all three, if it's because you hold that when it comes to the Hadassim, the law of the Hadassim is lenient, that the law does not require so much of the Hadassim. So V'lidr Shaluk Rabbi Akiva, why doesn't he expound to them like Rabbi Akiva, the Mekel Tfei? Rabbi Akiva is even more lenient than Rabbi Tarfon in some aspect. Because Rabbi Tarfon says you got to take 3 Hadassim. And Rabbi Akiva says you only have to take 1 Hadas. So Rabbi Akiva says you only have to take 1 Hadas. So if you want to be lenient, so wouldn't it be easier to be more lenient to paskin, to darshan, like the opinion of Rabbi Akiva? So really, if you hold lenient and you're trying to tell the sellers, guys, you must sell it at the right price. Don't sell it with more money. So he says, you know what he should have told them? He should have told them, guys, if you're gonna charge more money for it to be cut on top, I'm gonna tell the people like Rabbi Akiva, they only need 1 hadas. Why didn't he tell them that? If he holds that the law is, when it comes to hadasim, see, sometimes there are certain situations, let's say by Avel, when it comes to mourning, there are certain things that we say that when there's different opinions, many times we go with the more lenient opinion in that subject of mourning. So, so too over here, if he holds that the law follows the lenient opinion, and when there are multiple opinions when it comes to Hadasim, the law follows the lenient opinion. So he should have told the sellers, if you do not go ahead, if you're going to charge more for the Hadassim that are cut on top, when people are coming to buy 3 Hadassim, right? How many Hadassim are people coming to buy? They're coming to buy 3. They're coming to the merchants. I want 3 Hadassim, and I want them not to be cut on top. And if what do you hold? What do you, Rabbi Shmuel? What does Shmuel hold? Does Shmuel hold that the law is like the lenient opinion when it comes to Hadassim? So you should have told them, if you're going to charge more money for the whole Hadas, I'm going to tell the people like Rabbi Akiva, that you only need 1 Hadas. You don't need 3 Hadassim. And that will get the merchants to charge the same price. Because if they're going to charge more money for the hadas that's cut on top, then he's going to publicize you only need 1 hadas. Because therefore the demand of the people for hadasim will go down, and the merchants would lose money. Because the only people only going to ask for 1 hadas. So why did he tell them, if you're going to charge more, I'll tell them that the law is like the opinion. I'm going to tell them that the law, all 3 could be cut, which is one lenient opinion. It would seem like if you're going with the lenient opinion, you should go even further. That you should tell them that you don't even need 3 hadasim. The Gemara answers, Rabbi Akiva requires that 1 hadas only. It's true. In quantity, Rabbi Akiva is more lenient. He says you only need 1 hadas, but in quality, he's much more strict, because he holds that you need to go ahead, and he says you need only one hadas. Rabbi Akiva holds, but that has to be complete. They can't be cut. Rabbi Tarfon holds the quantity is 3. He's more strict on the quantity, but he's more lenient on the quality. Because Rabbi Tarfon says all 3 could be cut. So now, which is easier to find? Is it easier to find? Is it easier to have 3 that are cut, or is it easier to find 1 that's not cut? So the Gemara says that plus a ketumei, finding 3 hadassim that are cut, is shchichim. It's easy to find. It's very common in those days that to find 3 hadassim that are cut on top. And therefore, the price should be it would be less. It should be less expensive. But chad v'lo katum, but to have one hadas, it's true. One hadas is a small amount of hadas, but v'lo katum lo shchiach. To have one hadas that's not cut is not so common. It was not. It was hard to find hadassim that weren't cut at all. So therefore, if he would tell the sellers, if you tell the merchants, you know what, if you're going to charge more money for the hadassim that are cut on top, I'm going to tell the people you only need one hadas and only but one kosher hadas. That one kosher hadas is hard to find. I mean, it's hard to find one that's not cut on top. And being that it's hard to find, it would be more expensive. It would be more expensive, meaning if merchants have to sell, what's more expensive? 3 hadassim that are cut on top, or one hadas that's not cut on top? Good morning. Upstairs. Welcome. So one hadas that's not cut seems to be more expensive than 3 hadassim that are cut. So therefore, if you want to tell the merchants, you know what, I'm gonna, if you charge more for the cut hadas, I'm going to tell the people something that's going to be easier for them, less expensive. It's gonna the thing that will be less expensive and easier for them would be having 3 cut hadassim would be less expensive than one hadas not cut at all. So therefore, that's why he told them that. That's why he told the sellers, I'm going to really get you guys. I'm going to really hit you where it hurts, as they say, in the pocket, right? Because if you're going to charge more money for the hadas, that hadasim, the 3 hadassim that are cut on top, you're going to charge more money. I'm going to make it that you're going to make much less money because I'm going to tell them you can have 3 that are cut. I'm not going to tell them you only need one, and one can't be cut, because that would still make you would still get a nice price for that one. But to having 3 that are not cut, that's easy to find, and therefore you would lose a lot of money. Therefore, but I think the interesting thing that we need to note also is how the rabbi was concerned for the financial that it shouldn't cost too much money for the people, and therefore in the requirement of the hadassim, because maybe here you have Sukkot. There's expenses for the food of the holiday, and sometimes the people don't have much money, and if you're going to charge them too much money, maybe they won't even be able to afford their own lulav. Maybe they won't be able to afford to buy hadassim aravot and lulav and etrog if the price is too high. By the way, you should know that there was certain community, certain rabbis, maybe in Rabbi Heinemann from Baltimore, I think there was maybe a Hasidic Rebbe in the Gera Hasidim. Some of them capped, I think, the price that you could spend for a lulav and esrog hadas maravot. They wanted to bring the price down. They didn't want it to be such a hardship on the people, the community, and maybe they felt that and I think they told their members maybe perhaps not to spend more than a certain amount of money. I mean, of course, there's a mitzvah to beautify the mitzvah, but I think they were concerned that it was becoming too expensive for the people. So maybe, and I remember I once heard of Avadi Yosef speak, and there was also a story about fish for Shabbat. Fish for Shabbat, many people have the custom to have fish at the meals on Shabbat. And some of the fish people, the sellers of fish, maybe they jack the prices up high because they know that the Jewish community is going to want to buy the fish for honor of Shabbat. So I think he spoke about a time period that maybe some of the rabbis came out and said, might have said certain things regarding limiting limiting maybe buying the fish if the prices are too high, or some things. Also, again, concern, have to see what the exact story was over there. But again, it was concerned for the finances of the people, that if it's going to be too expensive to perform certain mitzvot, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be a big burden on the people. and we don't want, and maybe that's, people talk about kosher food being very expensive, you know, and listen, it's an issue that it's expensive, but if we could bring down the prices, if we can make it easier for people, that's definitely a big thing that people shouldn't, that the sellers, shouldn't take advantage of the people.
But there would be confusion because during one time period, there could be rabbis who institute things like you said, like, don't spend over this mark. But then we have to understand that in a different time period where there wasn't any price gouging issues, we would go back to how things were, where you should go further.
Right, exactly. Um, and then when things calm down, when the prices become normal, then we should get back that fish or whatever that custom was, um, to honor the Shabbat, or like, in this case in our Gemara, he told them, listen, guys, he told the merchants, if you go ahead and if you're going to charge more money for the hadassim that are cut, that are not cut on top than the ones that are cut, I'm going to tell the people you could have cut hadassim on the top, which is halacha, technically is good. The people were going above the law, meaning they were doing the higher level. They were having hadassim that are not cut on top, even though the law says you can have hadassim that, according to this opinion, that are cut on top. So the way people conducted themselves at him was they were not going with that cut hadassim on top. The way people in practice in the Jewish community, they were asking for hadassim that are not cut on top. That's how they conducted themselves. In reality, they can fulfill the mitzvah with hadassim that are cut on top. And he told them, I'm going to tell them they could use it. If you're going to charge more, I'm going to tell them they could go with the bare letter of the law, whatever expression is, with the bare minimum, which it could be cut on top. And then if you guys come back to yourselves and you come, if the price comes down, then I will encourage them. I will encourage them to have the ones that are not cut on top. But I will for that period of time that's necessary to bring the price down, things will change, and they might not have the most beautiful hadassim, but they're going to be cut on top. But if that's what's necessary to get the price down, but they're still fulfilling the mitzvah. It's like, maybe if you'll buy your etrog and you won't spend $300 on the etrog, you're still getting the mitzvah. It's kosher etrog, but you're not getting that $300 etrog. Now, again, there is a mitzvah to beautify a mitzvah. I presume the levels of beautification were going maybe was getting too much. It was too much of a burden, and we have to see. It would be nice to see more of the background and exactly what the community, what was the story by that Gerach Hasidim, what the Hasidic leader told them regarding what was his about how much to spend or whatever. Good to see more about that, but I think it comes from this Gemara, but the concern for the people and the amount of the expense for the people. Now we have to realize we shouldn't. It's not good to complain when things are expensive in Judaism, because when people complain about it, it gives a bad feeling, and people don't. It could make things weaker. For example, when people talk about Jewish education being very expensive, yeshiva education very expensive, but the more people hear that yeshiva education is very expensive, they might think twice about sending to yeshiva. Instead of saying, a diamond ring is also very expensive, but you buy your wife a diamond ring when she gets engaged, right? You don't buy your wife a diamond ring when she gets engagement ring, it's very expensive. So, we like the price of diamond rings to be cheaper, but maybe it should be given over in a way that constantly people are talking how expensive Jewish education is, without talking about the fact how great of an investment is, that it's so important. It's vital to have the Jewish education, but again, we have to deal with the issue that it's expensive. But the message, how the message is given over, is very important. That people should not compromise on the product that they need. They need to have that Jewish education. Maybe we could try to figure out how we can make Jewish education more affordable for the people.
People need to understand the difference between what's the essential halacha, what's beautifying of mitzvah, and then they can, things can fluctuate. Like, so if you see, during some period the lulavs are too expensive.
So they could use a less expensive, like here. Like if the hadass would be less too expensive, they would use a less expensive hadass.
They would need to understand that was why that was happening, not because it was becoming less desirable to have.
Right.
And same with the schools, like people need to understand, it's one thing to push back against, a school that's super expensive because they've beautified the building beyond belief, but that's not the same thing as, pushing back against, just a normal education that's expensive because the teachers need to be paid.
Right. Right. Very good. Right. Beautiful. Good point. Okay. So now the Mishnah. We'll start the Mishnah. We'll get back to it tomorrow. Etrog HaGozul. Similar to the other things that we said, if the lulav is stolen, the name of the parak is lulav HaGozul, or the hadassim are stolen, or the ravot are stolen. Etrog HaGozul. Stolen etrog. If you cannot fulfill the mitzvah and a stolen goods, etrog HaGozul v'hayovesh. If the etrog is dry, and we said what's called dry, if you would stick a needle through the etrog and no moistness will get attached to the needle, that's a sign that the etrog is dry. And if it's dry, it's invalid because the Torah says pre-eitz hadar. That has to be beautiful. Something that's dried is not beautiful. Shel Asherah. Good morning. If the etrog is Asherah is from those trees in Israel before the Jewish people came to Israel, the trees that the nations in Canaan worship these trees as avodah zarah. So if you had taken a lulav from such a tree, that lulav would be invalid for the mitzvah of lulav. You cannot, or here we're talking about lulav, we're talking about an etrog. An etrog that grew on this tree, and this citrus tree, this etrog tree, was used as a avodah zarah. As you know, Israel has etrog trees, and so that etrog from that tree would be invalid. A city that majority of the city worshipped idols. Those people that worship the idols have to be killed, and the movable items of the city have to be burnt. So they would actually burn the produce of the city that went ahead and worshipped avodah zarah. So that etrog from such a city, before it was burnt, but it was destined to be burnt, you cannot fulfill your mitzvah of etrog from such a city, from Ir Dachat. We'll continue tomorrow, and we'll look forward to coming back to the Holy Land of Israel and having kosher etrogim, proper etrogim, not from these type of trees that the Mishnah says you cannot fulfill your obligation. We want to thank Ralph for joining us today. All the best to everybody. Thank you. Take care. Have a great day. When are you going to be back, Ralph?
Tomorrow.
Well, looking forward. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Have a good day.